It started like many other events, featuring former President Donald Trump with a large crowd, buzzing energy, and the usual combination of sharp commentary, provocation, and applause. But what no one expected was that this one appearance would ignite a nationwide controversy, trending hashtags, emotional debates, and a moment that would go down as one of the most viral political clapbacks in recent memory. On that nationally televised evening, Donald Trump, in full campaign mode, turned his attention to Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, hurling what many interpreted as a racially charged and demeaning insult. With millions watching, he looked into the camera and called her dirty blood. The words came fast, casually, almost like a throwaway line, but the impact was immediate, searing, and unforgettable. The room itself hesitated. Supporters gave confused chuckles, as if unsure whether to laugh, cheer, or wait for clarification. Trump, however, didn't pause to explain or walk it back. Instead, he doubled down, reinforcing the phrase with added mockery. "That's what happens when you got dirty blood. Always angry, always nasty." He sneered, smirking as if daring someone to call him out. The reaction, as expected, was explosive. Within minutes, social media erupted with confusion, disbelief, and fury. Dirty blood, many asked. What did he mean? Was it a personal attack, a racist dog whistle, a reference to ancestry, character, or something even more insidious? The ambiguity of the insult, whether intentional or not, only made things worse. Political pundits on all sides began dissecting the phrase. Was Trump invoking eugenics-era language? Was it a veiled attack on her black heritage? Was it simply another offensive quip in a long history of inflammatory rhetoric from a man who has never shied away from controversy? Jasmine Crockett, who had been watching from her residence, didn't wait for her team to draft a statement or coordinate a response strategy. She went live on Instagram, unfiltered, unscripted, and fully in control of her narrative. The screen lit up with thousands of viewers within seconds. Wearing a simple t-shirt and minimal makeup, she stared directly into her phone, took a breath, and delivered what would soon become one of the most reshared political moments of the year. "Donald Trump called me dirty blood on live television," she began, her tone steady, but laced with a calm fury. "He said it with a grin, thinking no one would check him, thinking it was okay to demean a black woman because he's gotten away with it before. But let me say this loud and clear, I don't have dirty blood. I have warrior blood." The internet exploded. Comments flooded in, hearts, claps, fire emojis, the whole spectrum of digital support. People from across the country, many of whom had never even heard of Jasmine Crockett before that night, suddenly found themselves captivated. Here was a woman not backing down, not hiding behind politically correct language or waiting for a PR advisors to vet her words. She spoke plainly, passionately, fiercely. "You can call me whatever you want," she continued in the live stream, "but every insult you throw at me says more about you than it ever could about me. You're scared, Mr. Trump, scared of voices like mine, of women like me, of people whose very presence disrupts your comfort." Clips from the live stream were clipped, reposted, and translated into multiple languages. By morning, major networks were airing segments with headlines like "Jasmine Crockett hits back at Trump's dirty blood remark," and "Congresswoman goes viral after Trump's shock comment." Even international news agencies picked up the story, sparking global conversations around racism, sexism, and political rhetoric in the U.S. And while Trump himself remained defiant, even mocking the backlash during a later interview, saying, "They love to cry, don't they?" the momentum had already shifted. The next day, Crockett delivered a floor speech in Congress that would silence even her harshest critics. Standing firm, wearing a striking white power suit, she faced the chamber and began, when the former president of the United States refers to a sitting black congresswoman as dirty blood. We are no longer in the realm of political debate. We are in the realm of hatred, of bigotry, of violent language dressed up in campaign flair. Her voice rang through the hall with clarity and fire. "My blood carries the legacy of survivors, of builders, of teachers and warriors. My blood built this nation, even while yours tried to break it." For a moment, the room was silent, then applause loud, sincere, and even from unexpected corners. Meanwhile, online movements were blooming. The hashtag #DirtyBloodProud took off like wildfire. People began sharing their own stories of discrimination, resilience, and pride. It became more than a moment, it became a movement. College students printed the phrase on t-shirts. Activists used it to promote voter registration drives. Black-owned businesses created art inspired by the confrontation. What Trump intended as an insult had transformed into a rallying cry. Despite the magnitude of the moment, Crockett refused to be distracted by just the media coverage. In an exclusive sit-down with MSNBC, she delved deeper into the broader implications of Trump's words. "This is not just about me," she said calmly. "It's about a pattern, a repeated pattern of dehumanization. Every time someone like Trump uses language meant to strip us of dignity, he's testing the line, seeing how far he can go, and unless we push back hard, he'll keep going." She then cited previous instances where Trump had insulted women of color, including the infamous "go back to where you came from" comments and his attacks on other female politicians. "This is systemic," she concluded, "and it's not going to end until we end it." Her refusal to let the moment pass without action impressed many. Within days, Crockett announced a campaign to increase civic engagement among Black and brown youth. Titled "Power in My Blood," the initiative partnered with grassroots organizations to offer workshops on voting, advocacy, and community organizing. She wasn't just responding to an insult. She was converting that insult into infrastructure, into something lasting. Donations flooded in, celebrities voiced support, and more importantly, people listened. Trump, however, refused to let go of the narrative. At a subsequent rally, he mocked Crockett again, accusing her of playing the race card and insisting he meant dirty politics, not dirty blood. But the crowd wasn't entirely buying it. The phrase had already etched itself into the public memory, and every attempt to downplay or redirect only amplified that original harm. Even some of Trump's longtime allies expressed unease behind closed doors, worried that such statements were pushing away moderates and energizing opposition in ways that no policy could. In a panel discussion on CNN, a political analyst remarked, "This isn't about whether you like Jasmine Crockett or not. It's about what kind of country we're becoming. If the leading voice in a political party can say things like dirty blood about a fellow elected official and still be cheered for it, then we have to ask ourselves, where's the line?" That line, it seemed, had already been crossed, and now people were demanding accountability. Being politics, the cultural world embraced Crockett's resilience. Artists painted murals featuring her quote, "My blood built this nation," beneath portraits of other powerful women of color. Spoken word poets performed pieces inspired by her speech. Educators used the moment to spark conversations in classrooms about language, power, and historical trauma. What was once just another Trump soundbite had become a teachable moment, and Crockett was at the center of it. She remained grounded, however. In a touching video post weeks later, she visited her childhood neighborhood, speaking with young girls and boys about self-worth, identity, and pride. "I want you to know," she told a group of girls standing wide-eyed in front of her, "that nobody, no matter how powerful, can define who you are." By then, the narrative had shifted entirely. The insult had been reclaimed. Crockett had risen not in spite of the attack, but because she used it to lift others. Journalists called it a masterclass in political strength. Her opponents, once dismissive, were now cautious, and supporters, they were more energized than ever. But perhaps the most powerful response came from one of Crockett's constituents, a retired teacher who wrote in a handwritten letter that she read aloud during a campaign stop. The letter read, "You reminded me of what strength looks like. When they called you dirty, you made all of us feel clean. You made us proud. Keep going." And that's exactly what Jasmine Crockett has done. Kept going, kept pushing, kept turning words meant to wound into words that heal. In a political landscape too often dominated by cynicism, she brought back something rare, defiant hope. And for every person who has ever been called a name, underestimated, or told they weren't enough, her story now stands as proof. No insult can bury the truth. No slur can erase legacy. And no amount of dirty talk can stop someone whose blood carries generations of strength.